Discover the incredible life-changing journey when a single dad meets his millionaire roommate. In the picturesque heart of a small Midwestern town, where autumn leaves painted the streets with golden and fiery hues, Dave stood by the window, watching the world go by. He tried to smile, but the weight of grief settled heavy on his chest. His wife was gone, leaving him to raise their two young children, Lily and Max, alone. Every night, he shuffled into the diner, exhausted from the warehouse shift that had just ended. His paycheck felt like a tiny band-aid on a wound that wouldn't heal. The dream of a better life for his kids seemed to drift further away with each day. "Look, Dad. The leaves are so pretty." Lily's wide eyes sparkled with joy, and Max bounced beside her, grinning from ear to ear. In that moment, Dave's heart swelled with a mix of pride and sorrow. He wanted to capture their happiness, freeze it in time, but it slipped away like the vibrant foliage outside. Each laugh echoed the emptiness left by his wife, a reminder of what they had, and what he desperately wanted for them. As the town geared up for its annual fall festival, the air thick with pumpkin spice and laughter, Dave felt an aching loneliness. But everything changed when Jim arrived, a wealthy entrepreneur seeking solace in their small town. Their worlds collided unexpectedly when Jim moved in as Dave's new roommate. Dave's skepticism brewed as he watched Jim effortlessly navigate life, his privilege like a smile from a distant sun. "Do you really need 3 pairs of shoes for the festival?" Dave muttered, anger bubbling up at the sight of Jim's closet filled to the brim with designer clothes, while his own were frayed and faded. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let us continue. The tension simmered as Dave juggled his jobs and pushed through long days and nights with barely enough energy to keep up. An ethical dilemma cropped up at the warehouse, an error made by the team that could sink him deeper into debt. The stress twisted his stomach. He could save himself with a bold lie, but at what cost? Meanwhile, Jim coped with his own struggles, fighting against the stereotypes of wealth that haunted him. Each time they argued about the community fundraiser, they revealed their ignorance towards each other's lives. As they reluctantly began to collaborate, a flicker of understanding ignited between them, but just as quickly, it dimmed when a forgotten debt from Dave's past surfaced. Facing the humiliation, pride surged in him like an angry wave. Jim, unaware, offered financial help, a lifeline that felt more like a noose tightening around Dave's dignity. "Why can't you just let me handle my own mess?" Dave snapped, feeling the heat rise in his cheeks. Jim's bewildered expression only deepened Dave's frustration. Pinned against a wall, Dave stood at a crossroads when the festival arrived. The whole town gathered, eyes buzzing with anticipation. Here, in all its chaotic beauty, lay the moment that could break or bind the bond they had begun to forge. With families twirling beneath festoon lights, Dave felt the stirrings of a choice, the choice between pride and friendship, between isolation and community. A deep breath escaped him, the weight of the world pressing down as he faced a sun-soaked autumn day, each step revealing what's truly at stake. Would he risk it all to let Jim in, or retreat to the loneliness that haunted him? The answers danced just outside his reach, waiting to be uncovered when the festival commenced. The festival unfolded with the energy of vibrant laughter and cheerful chatter. Dave's heart raced as he threaded through the bustling crowd, children darting past him like fireflies, carrying bright-colored balloons, their giggles ringing out into the crisp autumn air. For a moment, he allowed himself to feel lighter, to be swept away by the sheer joy that enveloped the town. Even Lily and Max, dressed in their denim jackets, took every opportunity to indulge in sugary treats and games, and their smiles tugged him closer to happiness, even if just for a fleeting moment. But the weight of his decision loomed over him. Should he push aside the anger and pride? Should he let Jim into their lives, risking the little control he had left? As lanterns flickered to life, casting a warm glow over the gathering, a part of him wanted to reach out. Yet the sting of humiliation intertwined with fearful pride pulled him back. "Dad, come play with us," Max called, waving his arms excitedly. The joy in their voices shattered Dave's tangled web of doubt. He knew he couldn't keep separating himself, not when his kids thrived on connection and laughter. Maybe this was a chance to break down some walls, to see Jim for who he really was, rather than just a man with a bank account larger than his dreams. He moved toward the makeshift stage where Jim stood, chatting with a group of excited townsfolk. Jim looked so different in this environment. There was no suit, just a casual plaid shirt and an easy smile that warmed Dave's heart, despite the initial resentment. As he approached, a pang of uncertainty struck Dave. What was he even going to say? "Hey," Dave managed to get out, feeling vulnerability creep up like the autumn chill. Jim turned, his eyes lighting up with a mixture of surprise and joy. "Great crowd, right?" Jim replied, waving him over. "We should have a bit of fun together. You guys should join the corn maze competition." The invitation hung in the air, tempting. Could this be the bridge between them? Dave took a breath, imagining what it would be like to let go of his frustrations, even just for now. Lily and Max tugged at his hands, urging him to join. "Come on, Dad," they shouted in unison, their eyes wide with excitement. He glanced at Jim, who looked earnestly hopeful, and in that gesture, a flicker of resolve replaced his doubts. "Okay," Dave said, surprising even himself. "Let us do it." They plunged into the maze, laughter bubbling up as they raced through the winding paths of cornstalks. Together they shouted out directions, teasing and competing. Each time they found a dead end, Dave felt his heart lift a little higher, the tension slowly melting away. He could feel Jim's energy positively change too. He wasn't just some millionaire in his thoughts anymore, but a man trying to connect, to be a part of something. When they finally emerged, breathless and laughing, these moments became cemented in Dave's memory. This was what they had all needed, a moment of connection over brambles and corn leaves. But as the festival began to wind down and twilight set in, Dave's earlier worries crept back. The memory of the debt still loomed, a cloud hanging over this newfound bond, a reminder that things couldn't just magically turn around. "I'm glad you came out, Dave," Jim said, breaking through his thoughts. "Really means a lot." Dave hesitated. Could he trust Jim with the truth? Just then, the mayor stepped onto the stage, ready to announce the winners of the festival contests, a stirring crowd quieting in anticipation. But for Dave, the moment was more than just a festival. It felt like the precipice of a change he hadn't dared hope for. As he stood there, he felt a fire ignite within him, a combination of hope and fear stirring like the bustling leaves outside. And as the mayor began to speak, Dave knew there was one looming question left unanswered. Would he reveal his struggles to Jim? Or would he remain in the shadows of uncertainty? Just then, a gasp echoed through the crowd. Something unexpected was about to unfold. But what remained uncertain was how this night would ultimately change everything for them all. The crowd hushed, anticipation vibrating in the autumn air. Dave's heart pounded so loudly he wondered if anyone else could hear it. The mayor cleared his throat, his voice steady yet filled with excitement. "Thank you all for joining us tonight. And now it's time to announce the winners of this year's festival contests." As he spoke, the images of the day replayed in Dave's mind. Lily's laughter, Max's joyous cheers, the warmth of Jim's smile. Yet a shadow lingered, and with it, the burden of his unspoken fears. Could they build something lasting? Could Jim truly become a part of their lives? "First, I'd like to acknowledge our best float in the parade." The mayor's voice rose, cutting through Dave's thoughts. The crowd cheered, a medley of claps and excited yelps echoing around the square. But David felt suspended in a different reality. All the laughter around him felt both inviting and suffocating. "You didn't win today," he whispered to himself, his mind racing. "But what does winning even mean?" "Dad, look." Lily tugged at his sleeve, pulling him out of his spiraling thoughts. A group of children received a trophy, grinning from ear to ear, their faces aglow with happiness. "Yeah, Dad. We could win something next year." Max jumped in, his enthusiasm contagious. Dave forced a smile, but the weight of his reality settled back in. He had been so focused on survival, on the effort to maintain stability, that he hadn't allowed himself to genuinely connect with his kids. What if he didn't have to win anything? What if tonight was about celebrating joy, however fleeting? Suddenly a loud cheer erupted, interrupting his reverie. The mayor was announcing the competition winners for the corn maze, and anticipation crackled in the air. "And the winners are," he paused for effect, a mischievous glimmer in his eye. The O'Connor family. Dave's stomach flipped. He could hardly believe what he just heard. Jim beamed with pride as if it was his victory too. The kids squealed, jumping up and down. "Did you hear that? We won!" Lily shouted, her joy piercing through the tense air surrounding Dave. Dave didn't feel like he won a contest. He felt something deeper. This moment, the sheer excitement radiating from his children, was a gift incredible and transformational. He watched Jim, and a wave of gratitude washed over him. This man wasn't stealing his place as a father but sharing it. "Thanks for pushing me, Jim," Dave said, surprising himself with the candor. He had allowed a small light of vulnerability to creep in. Perhaps there was room for growth. Maybe they could figure this out together. "Anytime, buddy," Jim responded, a warmth in his smile that felt genuine. As the excitement faded, reality dawned on Dave again. The struggles waiting just around the corner. The debt. Rent. What was next? Before he could spiral down again, a firework exploded above them, bursting into colors that lit up the night sky. It was mesmerizing, like the future he envisioned for his family, filled with unexpected surprises and moments to cherish. Yet just as quickly, Dave thought back to Jim, the man who could potentially lift the burden off his shoulders. Could he pursue that connection? Could they tackle the unknown together? In that brilliant flash, a question emerged, bright and aching. If he reached out again, would Jim still be there? Or would he see the cracks in his facade and take a step back, leaving Dave alone in the shadows once more? The festival lit up, but inside, Dave felt a slow burn of urgency. What would unfold next could change everything. The night air felt electric around Dave. Each firework that lit the sky echoed in his chest like a buoyant heartbeat. He glanced at his kids, their eyes sparkling like the stars above, and for a moment, the weight of his worries drifted away. They seemed lost in their bubble of happiness, untouched by the chaotic reality waiting beyond the festival grounds. "Can we go see the rides next?" Max shouted, tugging on Dave's arm, his face painted with excitement. "Please?" Lily chimed in, her small hands clasped together in pleading. Dave hesitated. The rides called to them, promising more laughter, more joy. Yet as quickly as their smiles made his heart swell, the practicalities of rent, bills, and an uncertain future rushed back in like an unwelcome tide. But then he saw Jim beside them, a reassuring presence, his easy smile adding to the warmth enveloping them. "Why not? Let us make this night count," Jim said with an enthusiasm that made Dave's heart leap just a little. And just like that, he felt his apprehension fizzle out, replaced by a flicker of hope. They could be a family after all, couldn't they? "All right, let us do it," Dave declared, embracing the moment with a grin. Hand in hand, they navigated through the carnival lights, the laughter and joy of the festival wrapping around them like a snug blanket. As they reached the rides, Max launched himself toward the spinning teacup attraction. The thrill hanging in the air felt contagious. While the kids clambered aboard, Dave stayed back for a moment, taking in the scene. Jim leaned against the railing, his gaze fixed on the kids, his eyes softening with warmth. That simple sight ignited a sense of gratitude in Dave. He realized his burdens felt lighter when shared, and the connection growing between him and Jim wasn't just a passing phase. It was a foundation for hope. "Hey," Jim called out, breaking Dave's reverie. "Want to join? I think we'd make a great team at fighting off the spin." Dave laughed, stepping forward as the ride began to whirl. For the first time in ages, joy surged through him. They were spinning into new territory together, filled with laughter, daring spins, electric moments shared under a canvas of stars. But as the ride slowed, the reality of the emergency fund he only pretended to have loomed larger in his thoughts. Even in this moment of joy, nagging doubts coiled in his stomach. What if it all fell apart? What if he failed his kids again? With an injection of fear, the ride came to a halt, and the kids tumbled out, breathless and laughing. "Again! Again!" they shouted. "Sure thing," Dave replied, suppressing a sigh. In moments like these, he cherished their innocent joy. He couldn't let them down, but was that all he could offer? Just moments of happiness? As he watched Jim crouch down to talk to Lily and Max, something inside him began to stir, a realization that to build something lasting, he had to risk opening up about his fears. "Hey Jim," Dave said softly, as the kids rushed toward the next ride, eyes shining with excitement. "Can we talk?" I think I need to share more about my situation." Jim looked up, his expression shifting to one of earnest attention. "Of course, buddy. You know I'm here for you." In that moment, the vulnerability of the conversation ahead felt like standing on the edge of a dive, heart racing with anticipation. Would Jim lean in closer or pull away? As they took a step toward a quieter corner of the festival, Dave felt both trepidation and hope. The flickering lights danced around them, and with each step toward honesty, a promise lingered in the air. To face the unknown together was the only way forward. What new understanding awaited them in the shadows of the festival? Would it stretch the bonds they were beginning to form, or would it tear something precious apart? The chatter and laughter from the festival faded into a soft hum as Dave and Jim slipped away from the vibrant chaos. They found a quieter patch near the edge where the glow of the fairground lights softened into a soothing darkness. It was a stark contrast to the whirlwind of color and sound just a few feet away. Dave's heart beat louder than ever, filled with a mix of fear and determination. "I don't want to hold you back," he began, glancing at Jim, who met his gaze with unwavering interest. "Things have been hard for me, really hard. I'm worried I'll drag you into it." Jim smiled gently, his presence grounding. "Dave, we all have our challenges. You're not a burden. You're a good dad and I see that. Just let me in." The sincerity in Jim's voice broke down some walls inside Dave. He took a deep breath. "I'm behind on rent, I barely scrape by. And I can't let my kids feel the weight of it all. They deserve better." The confession hung in the air, heavy and raw. Jim's expression softened further. "You're doing everything you can. And sometimes sharing the burden can make it lighter." His words were a soothing balm washing over Dave. "What if I can't fix it? What if things get worse?" Dave looked down, frustration creeping in. "I'm just so tired of feeling like I'm failing." The silence that followed was thick with understanding. Jim stepped a bit closer, lowering his voice. "Failure isn't about what you have or haven't done. It's about giving up. And you haven't done that. Look at your kids. They love you. That says everything." Dave felt a rush of warmth hit his chest, a small spark of hope igniting. It was true. In the eyes of his children, he found purpose, even with the storm swirling around him. Maybe it's time for me to think about asking for help," Dave murmured, more to himself than to Jim. Jim nodded, the corners of his mouth lifting in a reassuring smile. "There's no shame in that. We all need a safety net sometimes. You're creating a new chapter." As they stood there sharing an unspoken connection, the laughter of Lily and Max echoed through the colorful carnival like a sweet reminder of what truly mattered. "Hey, are you ready for a balloon animal?" Jim suddenly piped up, breaking the charged atmosphere. "I'm pretty sure I can outdo any clown here." Laughter bubbled up in Dave, warming his heart further. Jim's light-hearted spirit was contagious, pulling him out from the depths of his worries. "A balloon animal? You're on. But I warn you, my kids are hard to impress." As the two headed back toward the festival, Dave felt a little lighter, a little more hopeful. Perhaps this was just the beginning of something new. But then a dreaded thought surfaced. What if he didn't find a way to catch up? What if the money troubles loomed larger than he could handle? When they reached the booth, an extravagant clown twisted colorful balloons with ease, attention drawn from all corners of the festival. But just as the cheerful atmosphere surrounded them, Dave's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, the screen illuminating his face. A notification flashed, a reminder about rent due next week. Panic clawed at his insides, but he plastered on a smile, hiding the rising tide of dread. As Jim tugged on his arm, ready to divert his attention back to the fun, Dave's nerves tightened. How could he push this away, pretend everything was okay when the truth loomed large? Pausing for just a moment, he caught Jim's eye. "What if I told you I was afraid this night might not be enough?" The expression on Jim's face changed, transitioning into something deeper. "Then we'll make sure it is." The words vibrated in the air, heavy and promising, leaving Dave wondering just how far they were willing to go for each other. But as the festival sparkled around them, a troubling question lingered. Would things truly change, or would reality crash in and shatter this newfound connection? The laughter from the festival faded briefly as Dave stood there, holding his phone, feeling the weight of the universe pressing on his chest. Jim's words echoed in his mind, a promise, an unspoken oath. But how could they make this night enough? The ghosts of late bills and unmet obligations loomed like dark clouds in his thoughts. "Hey look!" Jim exclaimed, snapping Dave's attention back to the moment. He pointed towards a games booth where a giant stuffed bear hung from a colorful arch, waiting to be won. "How about we try to win something for your kids? It'll be fun." Dave forced a chuckle, but his heart wasn't in it. "Sure, let us win a bear. Just what I need on top of everything else," he said, sarcasm lingering on his tongue. "That's the spirit," Jim seductively replied, nudging him toward the booth. "Simon, just a game. Let us forget about everything else for a little while." As they made their way over, the colors of the festival vibrated around them, neon lights twinkling and cotton candy glowing against the night sky. For a moment Dave allowed himself to breathe. Just breathe. Maybe they could kick back, if only for a little while. They arrived at the booth, payment in hand. The game was simple. Knock over 3 bottles with a ball. "Kid stuff," Jim declared, rolling up his sleeves. "Watch and learn." With a few playful tosses, Jim dispatched the bottles, even letting Dave take the final shot. Yet, when the last bottle remained standing in defiance, laughter erupted from onlookers enjoying the show. Dave couldn't help but join in, the tension in his shoulders easing just slightly. All right. Just let me show you how it's done." Dave finally took over, focused yet anxious. He took a breath, remembering all the things he wanted for his kids, the smiles he wanted to see. With a determined flick of his wrist, the ball arced through the air and knocked the last bottle down with a satisfying thud. The crowd cheered and Jim hooted in excitement, giving Dave a playful punch on the shoulder. "Now that's my guy." Triumphant, Dave was ready to claim the giant bear. He could almost see the excitement on Lily and Max's faces. But when Jim stepped up to claim the prize, the weight of reality crashed back around him. A giant bear would be a drop in the bucket of the struggles he faced. As they walked away, beaming with victory, Jim turned to him, a thoughtful look on his face. "You know, it's good to have fun. It reminds you why we push through, even when things aren't easy." "Yeah," Dave said slowly, the joy of the moment fading. "But I can't shake the thought of what's waiting for me at home." Jim halted and looked at him, his eyes searching. "You're not alone in this, Dave. Remember? You've got me. We can tackle things together, one step at a time." The sincerity in Jim's eyes cut through Dave's defenses. "You're right. It's just hard to let others in. I'm scared to lose this good feeling. We won't lose it. We'll build on it," Jim replied, his smile unyielding. "How about we grab more food? Some comfort nachos or something?" Dave smiled, albeit still a bit uncertain. "I like that idea. There's always room for nachos." As they strolled, the crowd buzzing around them, their laughter and shared glances creating warmth against the underlying anxiety. But as they rounded a corner, the familiar sight of a small group huddled together caught Dave's attention. He squinted, recognizing the fabric of desperation that hung heavy around them. It was a sign, something he often saw at the end of the month. "Maybe I'm not the only one struggling," he murmured, pulling Jim's attention over. Jim's expression shifted to one of concern as Dave slowed. The laughter around them was dulled by a sense of reality creeping back in. "Those people, I wonder what they're going through." In that moment, an unexpected resolve sparked in Dave's chest. "Let us go talk to them," he said suddenly. "Are you sure?" "Yeah, I think I need to understand. Maybe together we can find a way to help." As Dave moved toward the group, he felt the fire of purpose burn brighter. Maybe this was the night when everything would change. But as he approached, he couldn't shake the creeping feeling of uncertainty. What if he opened up too much and the weight of it all came crashing back? Steeling himself, he took a deep breath. What was he willing to face tonight? And who would he become by the end of it? As Dave stepped closer, the flickering lights of the festival danced in the corner of his vision. But his focus remained on the group ahead, 3 adults huddled together, their faces etched with worry. Shadows of concern played across their features, mirroring the tightness in Dave's chest. This was it, he thought. This was the moment he could break through the weight that held him down. "Hey there," Dave called out, his voice steady despite the nervous flutter in his stomach. The trio turned slowly, eyes narrowing at first, wary of this sudden intrusion into their space. "Everything okay?" One of the men, tall and rugged, crossed his arms. There was a defensive edge to his posture, and Dave felt a pang of empathy. He too had felt like this, trapped in a struggle, unsure of who to let in. Not quite, Dave responded simply. I saw you all over here and, well, we just wanted to check in if you need anything. It's a tough time for everyone, right? The tension in the air buzzed like static. The man glanced back at his friends, who exchanged uncertain looks. We're just waiting for some resources, he said finally. It's been a rough month. Dave nodded, the words hitting home. I get it. That's why I'm here. I mean, I've been there too. Can feel overwhelming. Jim stepped up beside him. Yeah, we get caught up sometimes and forget we don't have to go through it alone. What if we can help in some way? The man leaning against the wall squinted again, curiosity creeping into his guarded demeanor. Help? With what exactly? Dave thought fast. We could get some food. The nachos from that booth are amazing. And maybe we could sit and talk? Sometimes just sharing makes it easier. The woman's face, who had been silent until now, softened slightly. I don't want to impose, she started, but her voice trailed off. It's no imposition at all, Jim chimed in. We're all in this together, right? Just a couple of guys who want to share a meal and listen. Something shifted in the atmosphere, like the first sunbeam breaking through clouds. With a hesitant nod from the man, they moved closer to the food booth. Dave feeling the tension loosen its grip as laughter returned to the air. As they sat down with their nachos piled high, the conversation sparked to life around the table. Stories of struggles rolled forth. Someone's job loss, another's health issue, and Dave shared his own challenges of being a single dad. Each revelation brought a sense of camaraderie, slowly chipping away at individual despair. Sometimes the fear is worse than the pain, Jim said, his voice low, reflecting the rawness of the moment. Dave looked around, absorbing the faces. Each one was layered with pain but also a shared understanding. This wasn't just about heavy burdens. It was about connection, about lifting one another against life's storms. You know, the woman said, her voice brightening. We could all use a little more fun, right? How about a group game at the carnival? Just for the joys of it. Everyone laughed, the thought igniting a spark of warmth. Nacho eating contest, anyone? Dave quipped, and they all burst into laughter, some of it lighter, all of it genuine. But as he sat there, surrounded by newfound friends, a familiar gnawing began to return, an inkling of worry. What if this was just a moment and not a solution? What if, by stepping further into these connections, he risked losing the grip on his carefully balanced life? Still, there was something here. A glimmer of hope that urged him to lean in, to truly be part of this wider world. But the question loomed. Would he have the courage to embrace it, even if it meant facing what lay hidden within himself? With a tentative smile, Dave leaned back and looked around. So, should we go win that giant bear together next? As laughter erupted again, he felt a flicker of something he hadn't felt in a long time, possibility. But what if that possibility led him to a truth he wasn't ready to confront? Dave stood up, brushing off crumbs from the nachos that had just been a source of joy. The group was energizing him in ways he hadn't expected. They shared a few more jokes and the laughter echoed in the chilly night air, where the vibrant lights of the carnival twinkled above like distant stars. But beneath the surface, the familiar tight knot in his stomach twisted uneasily. Okay, let us go get that bear, he suggested, trying to stifle his internal doubts. He took a step towards the games, but it felt as though he were stepping into a new reality, a reality filled with laughter, connection, and something he had almost forgotten, joy. The rugged man was the first to follow, a hint of a smile breaking his earlier stern demeanor. The woman trailed behind, excitement flickering in her eyes. I hope you're good at throwing darts, she teased, nudging Dave lightly. With each step closer to the game booth, he felt his heart hammering louder. This was supposed to be fun, but panic flashed through him. The comfort of their shared stories floated away, replaced by the fear of losing that connection. What if they found out he wasn't as brave as he seemed? What if they realized he was just a single dad, clueless and at the end of his rope? No way, Jim exclaimed, pointing at a massive stuffed bear hanging in the booth. Dave followed his gaze, and his breath caught in his throat. It was a colossal bear, all fluffy and bright, and it seemed to be just waiting for someone to claim it. Let us win that thing, Jim shouted, brimming with enthusiasm. The group collectively cheered, giving Dave the tiniest nudge he needed. He could do this. Standing at the game stall, he loaded the darts into his hand and it felt hefty, grounding. With a few deep breaths, he focused on the balloon targets ahead. Shaking the worry from his mind, he aimed and threw. The first dart soared through the air, landing with a loud pop, and the cheers from his growing group melted his anxiety a little more. The thrill of the game overshadowed everything else. They all took turns throwing darts, shouting encouragement, and rising excitement as the prize slowly but surely came within reach. The ragged man let out a loud whoop as another balloon burst. "See, we've got this," he declared, the tension from earlier all but forgotten. Dave joined in the jubilant laughter, feeling the rush of shared victories replace his fears. But at that moment, a small voice in the back of his head whispered a question he hadn't been able to shake. If he opened up and allowed himself to trust these new friends, what else would he have to confront? It wasn't just about having fun. It was about risking the little pieces of himself he had built up to keep his heart safe. Okay, one more throw, he said, smirking and steadying himself for the final dart. The weight of the bear's significance crept back into his mind. This wasn't just about winning a toy. It was about believing he could connect and share his happiness, fears, and dreams. He threw the last dart, releasing it with a burst of hope. The dart hit hard and the last balloon popped. The group erupted in ecstatic cheers, and the game attendant handed him the giant bear. As he lifted it, his hands trembled. This moment, this victory, felt like something deeper, a beacon of hope. For the first time in a long while, Dave dared to feel truly alive. But as his breath steadied and the laughter surrounded him, he knew that facing this new friendship came with its own challenges. The bear wasn't just a prize. It was a reminder of all he hoped to leave behind, or perhaps all he was finally ready to embrace. Could he allow this joy to transform him, even when the shadows of his past loomed large? With the giant bear cradled against him, he stared anew at the vibrant fairground before them, realizing that in this moment, he stood not just as a father, but as a man ready to step into the light. But what awaited him on the other side of that courage? "Look at you, Dave. That bear is almost bigger than you," Jim teased, his laughter ringing out as he clapped Dave on the shoulder. The warmth of their camaraderie washed over him, yet in the back of his mind, fear still flickered like a candle half blown out by the wind. But what if I'm not good enough to be their friend? What if this feels like too much? He thought, clutching the soft, furry bear tighter. "We've got to get a photo with you and that bear." The woman, whose name he still hadn't caught, pointed toward a nearby booth where a colorful backdrop of balloons and streamers was set up. "Sure, why not?" Dave agreed, trying to sound more confident than he felt. The group gathered around him, and moments later, they were all squeezed together for a goofy selfie. The bear was nestled in his arms, its oversized head tilting as if sharing in their joy. "Perfect. This is going on my Insta," Jim declared, snapping a few shots before they broke apart with more laughter. But as the excitement buzzed around him, a new feeling crept in, fear of vulnerability. What would they think of him if they knew he was just a dad trying to find his way? Would they turn from him when they discovered the truth? "Hey, let us grab some snacks," the rugged man suggested, breaking into Dave's spiraling thoughts. "Yeah, we need to celebrate your victory," the woman chimed in, her eyes sparkling. As they moved toward the food stalls, Dave felt the warmth of connection wrapping around him like a cozy blanket. The thrill of the game still buzzed in the air, but a weight still lay heavy in his chest. This joy felt almost foreign, like an old sweater he was slipping back into after years of keeping it tucked away. "Who's up for some funnel cake?" Jim called out as they reached the stand. Before they knew it, plates piled high with sugary goodness were being passed around. "Thanks for convincing me to hang out," he said, voice laced with sincerity. He hesitated, then added, "I really needed this." The rugged man nodded knowingly. "Life's too short not to have fun, right? Sometimes it's about taking that leap." Dave chewed slowly, savoring not just the taste but the words. Taking that leap, it resonated deeply. The challenge of letting people in felt like standing on the edge of a diving board, staring down into the unknown. As laughter echoed around him, he felt the bear shift in his arms, a tangible reminder of the game's victory. It symbolized a moment of triumph, and maybe, just maybe, it could also symbolize a step toward something new, a connection, a friendship he never knew he needed. Then, a shadow crossed his mind. What about his daughter? Would she be okay with him forging these new connections? Would she feel abandoned? Anxiety knotted in his stomach as he caught himself staring ahead, distracted by those thoughts. "Hey, are you with us?" The woman's voice broke through. "Yeah, sorry. Just thinking." Dave managed a smile, though it didn't feel entirely sincere. "Let us win some more prizes after this. I bet you can do anything once you throw that bear," Jim joked, making light of the situation, but Dave caught the hint of encouragement in his eyes. But as exhilaration pulsed within him, a conflicting thought tugged at the edges of his mind. What would happen if he opened up to them? What if he shared his struggles? Would they still want him around when they truly knew him? The food was devoured quickly, yet every bite felt bittersweet, mingling with the questions that floated just beneath the surface. As they wandered back into the heart of the carnival, the laughter of the group buoying his spirits, he felt the tug of fear entwined with the pull of hope. Could he face this new journey together with them? But just as these questions stretched out before him like the carnival lights, another thought emerged. Was he ready to take that leap, not just for himself but for his daughter too? With the night sky swirling above, Dave took a deep breath, the bear still cradled in his arms, knowing that change was on the horizon. What would he discover about himself as he stepped further into this vibrant world, and how would it resonate with the life he had built for his daughter? The lights twinkled around them, and laughter filled the air as Dave and his newfound friends continued exploring the festival. The voices of children rang with delight, the atmosphere buzzing with hope and excitement. Yet, as the giant bear nestled against him, Dave felt a gentle nudge within, a reminder that he was at a crossroads, teetering on the edge of vulnerability. "Let us try the ring toss next," someone shouted, breaking through his racing thoughts. He spotted Jim's eager grin, and the infectious energy drew him in. For a fleeting moment, all worries about bills and balancing fatherhood slipped away. With each game they played, his heart felt a little lighter, a bit more free. "I'm going to win this time," Dave challenged, tossing away lingering apprehensions. He focused on the colored rings, lifting them high in the air before sending them spiraling toward the targets. Laughter erupted again as he landed a few, cheers ringing around him. "Yes, we've got it." His wins brought smiles to the group, reflecting that maybe, just maybe, it was okay to let this joy leak into his reality. As they stood in that moment, he realized how much he longed for connection. Slowly, something shifted. The shadows of doubt were pushed back by the laughter and encouragement surrounding him. "Look at that. The prize here is even bigger than the last," the woman exclaimed, pointing toward a massive plush unicorn. It glowed under the bright lights, radiating warmth just like the bonds forming around them. It felt magical, a symbol of hope for the happiness he wanted for Lily and Max. "I can't believe I'm going to try for that," he said, stepping toward the booth. The fear of failing mingled with exhilaration, and adrenaline pumped through his veins. "What if I let everyone down?" "Just remember, it's not about winning every time," Jim reassured. A kind smile plastered across his face. "It's about the fun we have while trying." With a newfound resolve, Dave aimed carefully at the target. He flung the rings, each one clattering away with a joyful pop that echoed his laughter. His friends surrounded him, their cheers spinning in the air like the carnival rides. As the last ring sailed through and hit its mark, a surge of triumph wrapped around him. "We did it!" he shouted, feeling jubilant every inch of the way. Before he realized it, the giant unicorn was placed into his outstretched arms. Turning into another representation of this feeling, he desperately wanted to keep connection, friendship, joy. The cheers of his friends became a sweet melody, grounding him even amidst the exhilarating chaos of the festival. But as the celebration engulfed him, the nagging thought returned. Could this partnership last once they returned to reality? Once the bright lights of the festival faded? Would they understand the burdens he grappled with? Or would their excitement dissipate like autumn leaves? "Let us grab one last snack and enjoy the fireworks," the woman proposed, and cheers rose again. As they gathered around a food stall, Dave felt the weight in his chest lessen. Sure, the financial troubles still loomed like storm clouds in the distance, but this moment was about more than that. It was about being present, sharing laughter, and allowing himself to experience the lightness he so desperately craved. Just then the fireworks began. Bursts of color burst overhead, illuminating the night sky with vivid reds, blues, and greens. Gasps filled the air, like collective breaths held in awe. Dave watched, his heart racing not from worry, but from the breathtaking beauty blossoming above. Each explosion mirrored the possibilities opening before him. He turned to Jim, who wore a beaming smile. "This is incredible," Dave exclaimed, breathless with awe. "Just like you," Jim replied, his voice steady. "You're all here making memories. That's what matters." In that moment, realization struck Dave. Here he stood under a canopy of stars and fireworks, embraced by friendships that had formed in a split second but felt substantial enough to step forward into the unknown. He truly wanted to share his life with Lily and Max without hesitation. He had to embrace vulnerability just as he had with this group of newfound friends. "Thank you, all of you, for tonight," Dave said, his voice steady and sincere. "It's been wonderful. I've been running for so long, trying to figure it all out alone. I want to let you in to be part of this, and hopefully share it with my kids." Jim stepped closer, resting a hand on Dave's shoulder. "No need to have it all figured out. We're in this together. Your kids deserve to see you happy, and that starts with being open." Dave felt tears spring to his eyes, emotions bubbling to the surface in a tide he couldn't fight. "I think I'm ready to let them in. They need to see what love and support look like, not just survival." "Absolutely," the woman chimed in. "They'll flourish knowing you're truly engaged in your life." As the final firework cracked open with a breathtaking brilliance, a new chapter unfurled before him. Surrounded by voices and laughter, warmth replaced the lingering shadows, and hope blossomed within him. From this point onward, Dave felt a shift toward acceptance, connection, and true companionship. Underneath the vast sky, Dave finally embraced the reality that life was not about carrying burdens alone, but sharing them openly with others, leaning into his fears, embracing laughter, and embracing hope. And for the first time in a long while, he felt like he could breathe freely again. As they began to walk back toward the vibrant heart of the carnival, Dave clasped the giant bear, a symbol of victory shared, and knew that change was not just something to hope for. It was a reality waiting to be lived. If only he had taken the leap sooner. Now it was time for a new journey to begin, a journey of love, laughter, and the beginning of something beautiful. Before you go on with your day, I need you to do something huge. Subscribe immediately to the channel if you felt the impact of this story. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive tales of inspiration and connection. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let it know stories like this matter. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this heartfelt, ending your words count. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformational journey. Together, we build a community of support and encouragement that resonates with everyone. Let us make a difference, one subscribe at a time.